Hi, I'm Viji Chinnamani from Monash University, Australia, and today we are going to present about how we manage the technical support of Pure at Monash. A bit about Monash University. Monash University is located at Melbourne, Australia, and we have an international presence with a campus in Malaysia and research institutes with China, India, and Italy. About the size of the institution, it's a fairly big institution with around 9,000 staff and around 86,000 students. In the context of research at Monash is done at over 10 faculties, and to get about the size of the research being done, they publish around 10,000 research outputs per year and more than 3,500 funding applications submitted per year. Now, Pure is internally hosted and managed by Monash Australia in the AWS space. The reason why we chose to host Pure was back in 2016, Pure was implemented. And back then there was some decisions made due to the reasons being the data had to reside within Australia. And it also helped us with in a number of other areas where it gave us flexibility around spinning up a number of non-production environments for the various business needs. And it also helped us to manage the release dates. And we could decide, the business could decide as to what version of Pure was to be released for the users. Now we'll go into seeing how we manage Pure for this big base of users. With the technical team, we are just a team of 3 people. We form the core technical people who look after the infrastructure, deploying Pure, configuring Pure, managing the release management of Pure, involving elaborate testing process as well. Pure as the product is constantly evolving, and all the other technologies, the software is also constantly evolving, and we need to keep pace with the challenging needs. And new business requirements also crop up. We could get requests like, hey, we need to integrate a new system with Pure, and we need to make some development changes to the existing integrations. So we go about managing all this through automation, because we had to rethink our process as to how we are going to manage with this increasing workload. And Monash also embraces digitization wherever possible and removal of paper-based processing, and also to go adopt innovative methods to implement automation.
Thanks, Vijay. I'll just quickly speak around the user access automation that we've done at Monash University. So following on from what Vijay mentioned about digitization of paper forms. So when we first started using Pure at Monash back in 2016, we had a process around granting access to users. That process was fairly manual. The basic gist of it was a person that wanted access to Pure would actually have to print out, fill in a paper form, then manually walk it over to their supervisor or their head of unit, who would then have to approve, and that process alone would take days. Once they had completed that form, they would have then to send the form over to our access management team that manages other systems, access to other systems within Monash. Once they confirmed that the approval was legitimate, they would then scan the document and then email it through to us, which would then create a ticket in our ticketing system. And once we received that ticket, we then would have to go through a complicated process of connecting to a database and manually entering those people into the system. Obviously, this has a lot of steps involved, and it's very manual, and it took way too long for people to actually get access to Pure. What we've come to now is we've actually transitioned over to a SaaS product called Frevo that automates the form component. So basically, whoever wants access to Pure or wants their profile made visible, they just navigate to a website. once they've navigated to the website, they just fill out their details. Those details automatically then get sent through to their approver with no involvement from the IT team whatsoever. Once that is complete, that then automatically gets sent through to our user access team, who just signs it off. Once they've signed it off, we've built a small web application. I'll show you a screenshot, which basically all they do is they enter in that relevant person's ID, pick whether they want access and a profile or whatever combination, hit submit, and within 12 or 24 hours, they've already got access to whatever they need, and they've already got a profile made available. This entire process is now done without the involvement of the IT team, and has saved us countless of hours of doing a lot of this work manually. Vijay, I'll just hand it over to you to talk about our integrations.
Thanks, Kristen. Now, integrations is one of the main aspects related to Pure, because Pure talks to a number of other systems within Monash to source the data from SAP, Callista, and the user authentication system, which holds the data for the single sign-on logins for the users. We are also working on integrations with Salesforce and Figshare systems so that Pure holds the complete researcher's profile and the researcher's information all in one place. So here, the integration platform that's used within Monash is called MuleSoft. It's a centralized platform which helps to decouple systems so that the different systems do not have to talk directly to each other, and we can all access information from one centralized source. So for Pure, data comes in from the SAP, the person data, the student and the supervision informations coming from Callista, and as I mentioned, the user login details coming from the FIM authentication system. Apart from data coming into Pure, we also send the data from Pure into MuleSoft so that the other systems can also make use of the data from Pure. Say, for example, in this Salesforce case, they need to refer to the master data records that is available in Pure before they can push data into Pure. So, so that's how the integration platform helps to connect the different systems. Information from Pure also is loaded into the BI system, BI reporting. It is used institution-wide for a number of reporting purposes, and the information from Pure is also streamed into a number of faculty websites for their own individual business needs. Next. Kristen, over to you on the...
I'll just also talk about infrastructure automation. So infrastructure automation, and this is specific to us because we actually host Pure. This is a project that we've been working on for almost all of this year and about half of last year, I would say. Just to give you an idea of why we started working on this, there were several scenarios in the past where different business stakeholders would have needed to be able to access non-prod versions of Pure, so Pure QA environments or testing environments for the purposes of various different things. So we ran into issues around scheduling quite a lot, where different teams wanted to access a specific version of Pure, and the things that one team would do to test out a specific module or functionality within Pure would interrupt what the other team was doing, and that whole process got a little bit messy. Also, the actual servers that we ran Pure on were the same ones that we'd started off with back in 2016, and over time there's been a lot of changes that has occurred separately to each of those servers. So when we wanted to make a change, it would operate fine in our non-prod environments, and then as soon as we were ready to go to production, they would behave differently. So we needed a way to automate this solution. This is what we've been working on for the past couple of years. In the past, creating a new pure environment manually would have taken us several weeks, almost a month. However, and we're very close to doing this, we're actually planning on going live with this in the next weekend. We can now create instances and complete environments of Pure, complete with a sanitized copy of the latest production data as of yesterday within 30 minutes. So that's a pretty big achievement for us. So if any member of the business, for example, for purposes like data governance or whatever various purposes there are, if they ask us for an instance of Pure, I can basically click a couple of buttons, go to lunch, come back, and they have a Pure environment. They're ready to go for them to use for whatever purpose. Once they've done whatever they need to do, they can then tear down the environment, and that's it. And we can start that cycle all over again for every single person. What this also means is it simplified our upgrade procedure, because upgrading to the next version of Pure is basically destroying the existing hosts and creating new ones and transferring the data across. Patching our servers that we do as server admins is as simple as destroying the hosts, creating new ones with the latest patches and upgrades, and restoring the data. Recovering from a disaster is also the same, where if there's an issue with a data center, we just destroy whatever's left, create new servers, and migrate across the data from backup. So the whole process is fully automated, and it's made that entire cycle very easy and straightforward. I'll quickly go into a few of the details so as not to bore you, but on the left-hand, this is our infrastructure within AWS, Amazon Web Services, for those of you who don't know. On the left-hand side, we use Jenkins, which is an open source automation tool. Jenkins automates and orchestrates the entire process of creating new Pure environments. On the bottom left corner, you'll see AWS Secrets Manager, which is a tool that holds things like our database credentials, our SSL certificates, our single sign-on certificates, things like that. So even encryption automation encryption is fully automated. In the center, you'll see our Pure stack, which basically comprises of two hosts that host the administrator module and the API module, or the web services module. And on the right, you'll see the two databases that we use. So those four components there in the center, and a couple of other smaller pieces, are what comprises a Pure environment for us. So that piece is what we can create within 30 minutes. And on the far right corner, you'll see our monitoring and alerting solution. So we're currently using a tool called Splunk, which is a tool that collects logs out of Pure. And we've got a few other things there as well that help us with monitoring. The end result of that being that if there's an outage of Pure, for example, even if it's after hours and we've only got on-call people, the system will automatically notify them that, hey, Pure is down, someone needs to go and take a look at it. Any error messages or anything else are also captured, and the person that's on call, on roster for that week, is automatically notified. If they do not pick up the call, it then escalates up to management, and it follows that chain of escalation. So that entire process is completely automated at this stage. Vijay, I'll get you to talk about testing.
Thanks, Kristen. So testing, for us, releasing Pure is a big task on itself. But before the product or the version of Pure is released, into production, it goes through an elaborate testing process. And it's not just done by one team or a few people. It's a collaborative effort between the technical teams, between the business and the library. So each the subject matter experts from each of the different areas contribute to this testing. The testing is really important because it helps us to identify any showstoppers, and then the business can make a decision whether this is going to go into production or not. So the way we manage this testing is currently we are using an Excel file, and it's got hundreds of test cases in it. Since the go live in July 2016, which was with the version 5.6, we have been adding up test cases to this in a tab called as a regression testing. So the way we manage this entire testing is, as and when new versions of Pure is released, we include the version specific features in a separate tab and identify them as version specific test cases. And the business gets to test all those features as well. And wherever the technical side of things is involved, the technical team does the testing. And that version specific test, we get the details from the release notes, and that's why the release notes are really critical for us in this testing process. And we also collect the information from the Elsevier JIRAs or any of the bug fixes, and we bring them also into this test plan. And the way we manage this test file is, every time a new version comes into picture, we'll move that old version specific test cases under the regression tab, and then we include that new version in this separate tab. We have also enabled a bit of automation into this to start with. Wherever the configs are involved, we have used Selenium scripting to go and bring out reports so that we don't have to go into each and every one of those individual config settings to see whether there is a difference between the previous version of Pure and the new version of Pure. The Selenium scripting brings out the reports within a few minutes, and all we need to do is just check the reports and go and see the differences only. Kristen, I'll let you elaborate on the future plan on automation.
Sorry. As Vijay was mentioning, we are working on test automation. So that's a key area for us to reduce the amount of time we take to test each version of Pure. We've been working on Selenium automation for about 6 months so far, and we've gotten it to a stage where a lot of the configurations that are available within the administrator tab of Pure are automatically tested, and we get alerted of changes. This has helped us in situations in the past where, for instance, there is a tick box or a drop-down setting or some sort of text field that has been at a certain setting in one version of Pure, and when we've upgraded, it has automatically changed without us knowing. Of course, we've been able to then raise that as bugs with Elsevier, but we don't like getting caught out. So Selenium has helped us to look through these configs and find these changes between versions of Pure, whereas in the past we would have had to spend time going through the hundreds of pages of config that's there in Pure to find these, and eyeballing those are quite difficult. We're also moving from Excel spreadsheets to something that's a bit more capable for managing our test cases. Our test cases now number well into the hundreds of test cases, so it gets very hard to manage. We're now moving to Jira, which I'm sure if there are any IT teams involved here, they would have heard of Jira, with another plugin called X-Ray that actually assists a lot with managing and specifically reusing a lot of these test cases. So we're hoping this will help us improve and speed up the testing cycles and the upgrade cycles for us in the future. I think that's all we've got time for. Just a couple of quick acknowledgements. We wouldn't have been able to do this work without the following 3 people that I mentioned there, specifically DevOps engineers and automation test engineers. we needed their help to actually start all of these pieces of work. And we've slowly acquired those skills within the team as well, so we can continue to improve and maintain all of the work that they've started. I think we have time for maybe one question.
It was great to hear how Monash manages their integrations with Pure. We've actually got an extended Q&A just because we had a bit of extra time. So we'll probably be about a 10-minute Q&A. So I've got plenty of questions coming in. So we'll get started. The first one is, you mentioned integrations with Salesforce, VJ. What type of data is this?
With Salesforce, we are looking into bringing the applications related information within Monash. Within Salesforce system, they're trying to capture any opportunities which are industry based, and that is a point of entry. So rather than doing a double entry into Pure, because the Pure applications and awards management is not integrated with any other systems. Currently, it's all being manually entered, records are manually entered. So we are looking into how we can integrate that CRM Salesforce system with Pure, so that any opportunities or applications related information that goes into the Salesforce system automatically is pushed into Pure, and then they can take it from there.
Okay, great. Another question. You said that there was 3 people involved in supporting Pure. Is that from the technology organization, or is it actually, or is it separate from the data maintenance team?
Okay, now support for this Pure product is at different levels. The business teams have their own front-end support tier, and within what we call as the technical core, which services the business side of things, we call them as the e-solutions. From there, we have different layers, like the first tier support, which is just a ticket management system. And then when we say the technical team, we are the backend support. We are the tier 3 support, where if any requests come in related to the infrastructure side of things, or the integration development side of things, then it is the technical team that supports those kind of issues. Okay,
great. And a bit of an open-ended question, but what has been the biggest challenge with Pure?
It's like managing running system. When I say running system, it's like fueling an aeroplane in flight. Because we have new versions of Pure being released regularly, and then there are infrastructure changes as well happening, because we have to update the databases with the latest versions due to whatever bugs or security reasons. We have the Tomcat or the web servers and the backend instances. So managing all this along with supporting Pure due to the data issues that comes into the team is a big challenge on its own with just the 3 people around. And yeah.
This is why we've been really pushing hard for automation, because without being able to get a lot more people in our team, this is the only real way for us to be able to do a lot of this work. Things like what Vijay mentioned, database upgrades and upgrades to web servers and things like that, that can get quite consuming in the testing cycle and the build cycle. So automation is really a key driver there to help reduce and even the daily minutia that comes in. Automation can help in a lot of these spaces. So we've really been embracing automation for these things.
Awesome, thanks for that. Still got questions coming in, so we'll keep going. Are you running different versions in test? Or are there reasons for having separate test environment per user?
The way that we've got it set up, and I can go into a lot of detail on this, I'll try to be brief. The way we've got it set up is I can pick a version of Pure to create a new Pure environment. So currently we're running 5.18. However, I can pick 5.17 or 5.16. And as long as we've got a database backup from back then, we can create whatever version we want. So we're letting go of the concept of you have your dev and your test and your QA and all these other labels. We've basically got production and non-production, and non-production is an ephemeral thing. So you can have 10 instances of Pure or one. It's really on a what's the purpose of this instance or what's the purpose of this environment basis. So that's the mindset that we're going towards.
Okay, great. And this is kind of a good question because Bond is also kind of integrating using BI. So the question is, what challenge did you face bringing pure data into the BI tools?
So I was part of the team that actually built the integration between Pure and BI. The biggest challenge that we faced, the APIs were extremely useful. So we used the APIs for almost everything. One of the challenges that we faced was some of the data is still locked in the database. It's still not exposed through the API. So we had to go around digging in the database to actually find out where some of this data resides. That's more from the technical standpoint. In terms of usage of BI, I don't know whether I'm the right person to really answer that question.
No, that's all right. We've probably got time for one more question. We'll go to how much time / FTE, full-time equivalent, would you estimate to handle the integrations in and out of Pure that would be needed even if Elsevier did host?
What I can say is hosting Pure has made a big difference for us. Because we've been able to host Pure, we've been able to do a lot of other things such as direct connections to the database that we would not have been able to otherwise. Things like the Figshare integration that Vijay spoke about briefly, that involved a lot of custom code where Figshare would dump, Figshare would create a data dump, put it into an S3 bucket in Amazon. We would pick that up, run Python scripts to associate different data set records to people, and that data was only available in the database, and then dump it back out and then have a Pure job pull it back. And so a lot of this stuff was only capable, we were only able to do because we hosted Pure. I think this is a longer question that I need to have a longer one. It really depends on what integrations. Okay. FTE is a hard question to answer.
No worries, that's all good. We've got about a minute, so I might just add to that question. I know that there's a few other universities, including Bond, that are interested in porting data sets from Figshare, however, do not have access to AWS S3 service. Do you know if this process could work with other storage solutions?
We use AWS at Monash, which is why we chose AWS. The AWS S3 bucket that Figshare dumps into is actually their S3 bucket. So whatever, you can use Azure, you can even use your on-premise stuff to retrieve the data from that S3 bucket. Once you've retrieved the data from that S3 bucket, you can then do whatever you want in whatever object storage way you want. You just need to make sure that you can then make it available to Pure from there on. What we are doing, we've still not fully released this into production yet, but what we're doing is we're actually copying this data onto the host and then allowing Pure to retrieve the data from there. Again, that's one more benefit of hosting Pure ourselves, where we can actually run other scripts on the host to do other things.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Vijay and Christian. That was awesome. You have plenty of questions as well. Just a note before I introduce our next speaker, please ensure that you are asking questions throughout the presentation so other attendees can vote, and then we can prioritize the most popular questions in the Q&A at the end of the session. If your questions don't get answered or we run out of time for the Q&A, please post these in the open discussion forum so you can receive your response here. So I'll introduce the next session now. So thank you guys for your time.